Hi, this is Mike Collins, captain of the Gaspee Business Network, the incorruptible voice for the Rhode Island business people. Welcome to our open house.
Welcome to the Gaspee Business Network's first public event. We're brand new, as you'll hear. It's an important piece of a reform strategy and a movement for our state, which we'll get into in a minute. My name is Mike Stenhouse. Some of you may know me from my work with Rhode Island Center for Freedom and Prosperity, but this is a separate venture, but it is part of the larger coalition that is here in protest and looking to change the status quo in this state. Before we get into the program, let me just recognize the elected officials who I've seen so far here, and there are 4. Representative Bobby Nardolillo is here. Representative Bob Lancia. Bob. Senator Lou Raptakis. And Senator Elaine Morgan. Did anyone else sneak in that I didn't see? Okay. So we'll have a little...
Where did Constantino?
Oh, thank you, Rep. Greg Constantino is here. Thank you, Rep. Good to see you. Got to get up to D. Pasquale Square again soon. We'll have a little presentation here as we go along, but really this is about changing the business climate in our state. The headlines should infuriate all of us, and they do, but it's not just the headlines. We all know that it means business, customers, profitability, disposable income for our families. This is what it's really about, and this is what a poor business climate makes it difficult to achieve. Let me just go through our agenda quickly for tonight. We're going to tell you about the Gaspee Project, then the Gaspee Business Network. We'll talk about some examples of policy principles that we'll be advocating for. We'll have some featured speakers who are well known throughout the state, talk about the different ways you become a partner. Again, we encourage you to go to our registration table anytime tonight and join, or do it right from your cell phone, gaspee.biz, if you haven't been to our website. And then we hope to get through all this in 20, 30 minutes, all the talking, so I'm going to ask all our speakers to be brief and to the point, and then we want to hear from you. We want your comments, and we want your questions, because this is a member-driven process. All right, the Gaspee Project is the parent organization. It was formed because after a few years, we found that work at the center, my other organization, we've been working for a pro-business, pro-taxpayer agenda for years. But they don't pay attention to us. We don't pose any threat to them. We don't have any clout with them. It's just an idea that's too difficult to consider because it goes against the status quo. What's happened in other states successfully throughout the country is when there's aligned, different kind of a political organization that's working in concert with the first organization, because our center cannot be political, but another organization can be. And when you combine good policy ideas with a little bit of political lobbying or campaign clout, then you start to see the needle move. And that's what's happened in other states. It's happened in other, that's what led the reforms, the massive reforms you all read about in Michigan and Wisconsin, was when you had political leadership combined with grassroots leadership. That's when things happen. And that's what Gaspee Network and the Gaspee Project is designed to do. So the Gaspee Project is an official IRS-approved 501c4, for those of you who know that, versus a C3 nonprofit. It is a nonprofit, but it's not a tax-exempt nonprofit. We're registered in the state. We have a full corporate infrastructure. We have a board of directors, corporate banking, websites. We report annually to the IRS. We have 3 board members here today. If I just quickly recognize them all at once: Ellen Kenner, Joe Veely, and John Nowicki. So the mission is to work with other pro-growth, pro-business, pro-taxpayer organizations to move that needle. And there's 3 primary activities we'll engage in. Again, this is the parent Gaspee Project. Public education, raising awareness about issues, lawmaker votes, legislative lobbying. We hope to grow to the point where we can have part-time, maybe eventually full-time lobbying up at the statehouse. And then electioneering. The IRS says that as a C4, we can spend no more than 50% of our resources on that 3rd item, electioneering. So most of what we do is going to be raising public awareness on issues and on legislative lobbying. We just happen to be right before a campaign season this year, so the next few months will be heavily campaign focused, but the 20 months after that will be heavily issue focused. And we have to spend, per IRS law, at least half of our time on what they call social welfare or public educational issue-based advocacy. Gaspee has become the home for a number of advocacy groups who want to advocate but don't necessarily have the time to administrate. They don't want to set up a bank and set up a corporate structure and set up bank accounts and do all that. So we do all that for them. We've got the Property Rights Alliance of Rhode Island. We've got the mothers and others who are against mandated HPV vaccinations. We have the Stop Tolls RI group, Ocean State Tea Party in Action, OSTPA, Common Sense RI TV, and our newest initiative is the Gaspee Business Network, which you'll hear about right now from Mike Collins, the captain of the Gaspee Business Network.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for coming, everybody. Appreciate having you here. So, the Gaspee Business Network is basically an organic group put together. I'm sorry. The Gaspee Business Network is basically an organic business network growing out of some business guys. As you all know, or you probably heard, that it's sprung off from the tolls, and it's manifested into a voice for what's going to be the Rhode Island businesses. We're a little different from the Chamber of Commerce. We're not looking to put salaries on. We don't have big salaries. We don't have $200,000 a year jobs. We're not looking for that. All money and proceeds are going to go in for, influence and electioneering, so on and so forth. With that being said, our business model is we want the guy from banging nails to the girl that puts nails on, or polishes nails. We want to give you a voice up at the Statehouse. I have some people here in the room with me that spent some time up there during RhodeWorks, and not to reiterate back on that too much, but we found out that after 6 or 7 weeks up at the Statehouse that the reps listened, but they never heard us, and there's a difference. And with this going forward, I said when it was all said and done, we'd try to get a business organization together. So I got together with some guys that are with me here right now. We formed a steering committee, a pretty diverse group of business guys. We have concrete, furniture manufacturing, association members, so on and so forth. We all sat down and figured out what direction and where this thing needed to go. And the one thing that was on generally everybody's mind was that there was no voice for business, and that we needed to get a voice back to business and represent business. With that being said, and how I ended up with this motley crew, all kidding aside, is there was a gentleman, Larry, who overheard me at the Statehouse saying, I was having a conversation with my friend Chris Maxwell here from the truck owners, saying, when this is all said and done, we got to do something about it. And he approached me and he said, are you serious about forming a business network? And I said, damn straight I am. And we've gone forward from there. We've created a lot of legs with this thing. We really got off the ground in March. I believe in it. My heart and soul is in this. I will not let it fail. We're not going away. I'm the bear they poked at the Statehouse, and they're going to be sorry they woke them up. Yeah. Briefly, we need to take our Statehouse back.
Yes.
There are a handful of representatives up there, and a few of them, I'm going to say, are in this room, that are generally concerned, that have your concern and your business concern at best at heart. And then there's a bunch of them that really don't give a shit about you. Let me call it what it is. Okay? Excuse my language. I'm sorry. My nickname's 40 Grit, by the way. I can be a little abrasive, but I mean, you know, the point in case being here is that, you know, we want, you know, and talking to the reps and said, you know, what would be the optimum of a business network that you'd respect when you walk in the door? And every one of them said the same thing: fear. They need to fear us. They fear us by numbers, okay? Providence Chamber of Commerce, I'm going to use that for an example, 1,069 members. You got the leader up there taking a $200,000 a year salary out. The first words out of Gina's mouth are, oh, the Providence Chamber of Commerce approved RhodeWorks. She never even called anybody, okay? Unfortunately, I'm with the Brombergs doing the Dan York TV show, and Arnold Bromberg tells me they're the oldest member of the Providence Chamber of Commerce. They've been in business 90 years, they're a Rhode Island icon, and never even had the decency of getting a phone call from her. So if that's what you want representing you at the State House, then you deserve what you get. You know, where this is going, Mike brought up some points. Look, this can only go one way, it can only go up. We're all business people. We're all generational business people. We want to either we're spread off second generation, or we're first generation trying to leave to second generation, you know? And with that being said, the way the state's going, we're not going to leave anybody anything except a big hole. This state's $18.9 billion in the hole, people, all right? $400 million a year in interest payments, $4.9 billion in unfunded pensions. You think it's going to get any better? Right? We just bought GE jobs. We bought them. We didn't sway anybody. We bought them. We paid $50,000 a piece for those GE jobs. I'm sure there's somebody in this room that runs a printing company or a small factory that could have taken $50,000, bought a machine, and put 3 or 4 people to work. You weren't even considered. All right? Because there's the old agenda going on. That shit's going to stop. Okay? And I need your help to do it. All right? Oh, Walter. I would love to, Walter's on my steering committee. I'd love to have Walter McLaughlin come up, and then I'll say a few words about Jane Casey here, who's going to be with us. For everyone to know, Walter is with McLaughlin Automotive, very successful business guy. Walter came to help us, and we value his opinion. He created quite a large business for himself, and did the ultimate guy's dream. He sold it and was able to cash out, but we value his expertise, and here you go, Walter.
Thanks, Mike, and listen, thank you all of you people for coming tonight and listening to this great cause, because believe me, it is a great cause.
Thanks for
because, as Mike said, we do not have a voice up there, we do not. And this is what this movement is all about, is having a voice up there, at least getting to listen to us. You know we might not be able to move mountains, you know, right off the bat, but we gotta try, because right now, they're not listening to us. They don't even know we're alive. I mean, I remember getting frustrated for so many years. You know, I remember when they, after the station fire, when they passed all those fire laws, that cost me $250,000. Because I lost my head one day and threw the guy out from Grinnell, the sprinkler company, and he reported me to the fire department. The fire department come over, bingo, 250 grand, because I was selling the company, I had to put the building in shape. But that's just an example. I mean, bad legislation. 38 studios, that's another one. I mean, 75 million or whatever it was, why couldn't they have broken that down into 5,000, 3,000, excuse me, 5 million or $3 million loans? They could have helped how many companies? But no, they had to give the whole enchilada to Kurt Schilling, and you saw what the end of that was. Listen, I've been saying for all these years, government is too big, the government spends too much money, but here's the kicker. People now are dependent on the government. People actually think the government should take care of them. Come on. I mean, Rhode Island, what do we got? We got old people, poor people, and immigrants. That's what we got. I mean, all the smart kids are moving away. I mean, you know, I mean, really. I mean, this is why, you know, I retired 5 years ago, but this type of thing really turns me on, because if we can make some inroads up there at the State House, let's think about our children and our grandchildren. What kind of a legacy are we going to leave to people? I mean, everybody's laughing at us in the country. I mean, really. I mean, it's, I could stand up here and talk about this all night, but I'm not going to. I just want to thank you for coming. Please support this organization and watch it work wonders, because there's good people involved here. They got the nerve, they got the courage to take this bull by the horns, and I encourage them, and I'm going to stick with them. Thank you very much.
When I was walking around the room and introducing myself, I met a gentleman sitting over here, and I'd like to have him come up. And pretty interesting story. A gentleman who tried to start a business here in Rhode Island. Listen, it's not staged. I never met him, not till he came here. We want to come up, please? And I'd love to have you listen to his story. It brought him here tonight. And please, introduce yourself. I'm sorry I never got to this.
Evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Yep. My name is Robert Martinez, and I'd like to first thank Mike Stenhouse and Mike Collins for putting on this event. So, a brief history. I started a really small business. I started a hot dog cart in Providence, and didn't even make it a year because of the fact that the regulations in the state and in Providence just completely shut me down. Didn't even give me a chance to get started, get my feet wet. And, I had to struggle from day one to the very last day I was in business. And I'm unfortunately an example of why the state needs to change. I'm getting more involved politically, but I'm a veteran. I started the business just to give back to the community. Who doesn't? Everybody eats. So my business, my plan, I went through the whole process, went to college, got my degree, started the business with little to no funds, and a year later I was already out of business because of the fact that they were taking care of the big guys, taking care of the brick and mortars, pretty much tossing the food vendors and the small guys to the side. And I experienced it from the east side in Providence, near Brown University, to the west side, to the south side. I went all over the city because I was lucky. My business was mobile. But each and every day I went to work, I didn't look at it as work, but every day I went to work, I experienced pain and a lot of discouragement because of the fact that our elected leaders weren't working for us. And I'm not a member of GPN yet. I hopefully will be.
You are now.
But I encourage everybody that if you have a business, whether it's a one-person operation or a medium-sized company, that this would be the voice, because we need voices, and we need to take our state back, because obviously we're not in the right direction right now. And I appreciate it.
This is why we're here. Without entrepreneurs, without small business owners, our state will not become prosperous again. There's a story, as you may know, I'm part of a national network of free market think tanks, and our Michigan, I think it was Michigan think tank has a well-publicized YouTube story of a mobile food vendor who got regulated out of, I think it was Chicago actually, Chicago. Moved to Texas and is now thriving. It's not because they're not good business people, it's because they're in a hostile business climate. Do we want innovative people, startup people like Robert here leaving our state, or do we want them to stay at home and prosper here? This is what it's all about.
They have to have them. We need.
That's right, right. Thank you very much, Robert. Thank you. There's a quote up here. Jane Casey was going to speak, but she couldn't because of business concerns. She runs a professional security guard company. Minimum wage is a very important issue to her, and I'm sure it is to many of you. she's so thrilled, that they survived a year without any increase. Any increase, she said, might have driven me out of business. That's how close I am. You have your issues. Robert has his issues. We all have ours. Somebody needs to make them listen up there. So Jane sends her best, but she sends her quote. It's really the perfect quote for what we're talking about. She contacts her reps, she gets the runaround, or she gets the standard response, and she feels like she's all alone with no voice. How many of you feel that way? Right. How many even want to be part of something where you feel like you're part of a movement and can make a difference? That's what we want. We just want to be fair. We just want to run our businesses and make Rhode Island and our families a better place. So at this point, I want to call up Gary Sass. Many of you know Gary. He's a legend in this state, former director of administration, founder of RIPEC. I mean, we could go on and on, director of the Hassenfeld Institute right now. Gary knows the politics and the policy and the budgets in this state as well as anybody. And here to just briefly tell us why the Gaspee Business Network is so needed in our state. Gary?
Well, good evening. Before I start, I want to say, amen to what Mike said. I've been around the State House for 35 years, and I've never seen small business and the middle class so poorly represented. And I'd like to talk about 4 minutes today.
You can't hear it.
Just yell louder.
Oh, yell out. Can you hear me now? Is this good now?
Yeah.
I've got the smooth southern voice, so it's low. You talk about, why we've got to this position, what some examples are, and what we could do about it. Because, can you hear me now? I can't speak. I'll speak to.
Just put this
Come off?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Put it right here.
This good now? Yeah. Amen. Anyhow, just amen to what Mike said. In the 35 years that I've hung around the State House, I've never seen the middle class and small business so poorly represented. Something has to change. And what I want to do for about 3 or 4 minutes tonight is talk about what some examples are, and what I think you need to do. But I think you know what you need to do, but you've got to execute it. First thing, I don't know how many people would be here, and I passed out a chart which shows right direction, wrong direction. The Hassenfeld Institute does quarterly polling about various issues in the state, and the question we always ask is, do you think the state is going in the right or wrong direction? And this chart is so telling of what you're feeling. When Gina came into office, about 1/3 of the people thought the state was going in the right direction. 4 months later, through September of 15, it was about 40%. As many people thought we were going in the right direction as in the wrong direction. Over the last 9 months, 50%, and you can see how the lines diverge, think the state is going in the wrong direction, and just about 30% in the right direction. And this poll was taken April 30th to May 2nd. It has an error ratio of plus or minus 4.8%. And this poll was taken before the legislative session was complete. The next one we take will be in September, but I don't think that people are feeling any better about the state. So why? Why this discontent? And you're seeing this discontent voiced in national election. People feel the system is rigged. They feel the political system is rigged, and in this state, the economic system is rigged. And what causes that rigging? Well, think of it this. You've heard of the Bermuda Triangle. Well, think of the iron triangle. We have an iron triangle in this state that has 3 points. Big labor, big business represented by the Chamber of Commerce, and political leadership in the State House, including the governor and the leaders in the legislature. And you can't break through that iron triangle. And that is the problem, and we need to figure out tactics and strategies to break it through. Just a couple of examples, and I find them things that you've lived in and worked with. Tolls. There wasn't a reason. Everybody that looked at tolls said we could fix the bridges and fix the roads without tolls. But tolls were passed. Big labor wanted it. Gina followed. We've created this Commerce Rhode Island. Thomas, Rhode Island is nothing more than the EDC on steroids. It has the power to make crony loans, crony deals. In this session of the legislature, they also gave it the power to buy companies. It could create equity positions in companies. It violates every rule of economic development, because economic development is pretty simple. You want to create markets, you want to have low taxes, you want to have less central planning and regulation, and you want good schools. It's not very complicated. We can disagree on how to get to those points, those are legitimate differences, but it's not through corporate welfare. And just a couple of examples. Did you know, I think, they doubled down on these credits this last session of the legislature. Wexford Scientific, which is a very credible company, is speaking about developing a project in I-195. They're going to get $40 million of tax credits. Before the session, it was probably about $20 million. If you give me $40 million, I'll build you a pretty good building too. Yeah. So I'm not taking a risk with my money, but with yours. AT Cross, $2 million, $1.9 million on the threat of moving to Connecticut. Well, AT Cross doesn't have any manufacturing jobs anymore. So what was that about? I read the paper today that Mike D'Ambra is going to get tax credit to build a hotel. I thought markets determine whether we need to build hotels or not. I lived as director of administration through the historic tax credit fiasco, where we borrowed more money, that we get more credits, and we had to borrow money because we couldn't afford to balance the budget and fund essential services because of this crony capitalism. So tolls, crony capitalism, and there are many other examples of favoritism, but it's really a lost opportunity because we're not building markets, we're not fixing our schools, we're not lowering taxes for everybody, and we get into roadworks, and everything has a, you know, something has a fancy title. So we have roadworks and we have roadmap and whatever. And these policies are not being thoroughly vetted because of this triangle. And they're not being thoroughly vetted because we may not be right on every issue. I'd be the first one to tell you that. But no one is representing the interests of small business. So you're not having the conversation. And not that you're going to win every argument, but you ought to, in this system, have the conversation. Because it was Justice Brandeis who said the best solution for democracy is sunshine. Well, there's very little sunshine in the Statehouse except if it's 6 in the morning and the sun is first coming up. That's when they seem to recognize the sunshine. The other issue that's really driving this, I'm sure Ken will talk about this in more detail, is the ethical environment is terrible. Gallison, Fox, Lally, Tornavale, it's a real honor roll. Well, you know, that by itself, you know, none of us are perfect, and you know, I'm certainly not without sin, and none of you without sin. But the issue of day after day after day of having this unethical leadership, and we have a speaker in this legislature, not just Nick Mattiello, but the power of the legislature is in the power of the speaker. There's no other legislature in the United States where the speaker has as much power, the Senate President as well. And there are institutional changes we have to make. You know, we've talked about term limits, but not term limits for everybody, because that's tough to pass. But term limits on the speaker and on the committee chairman. Let's build some freshness into the system. And let's talk about those types of reforms. So that's the picture. It's there, and people are feeling very down that the state is not moving in a direction. And unfortunately, you have no representation. So what do you do about it? You fund this organization. And I've been to efforts before which were just as well-intentioned as this. You got to raise money. You got to find candidates. You got to become politically. You got to be strategic. You can't do it all in one day. But the success is going to be on strategically following through on the concerns that are being expressed in this room. And that's going to require, you know, sacrifice. It's going to require some of you. How many of you guys are going to run for a statehouse? Because everybody got PO'd about the tolls, and when the toll issue was being discussed, oh, we're going to run, we're going to change this. I'm still looking. So it's really putting your money where your mouth is. Because I can't think of anything more important for this state than to get a strong voice for small business. 80% of our jobs are small business. Thank you.
I want you to give yourself a cheer right now. You know, we were originally, the Gaspee Business Network was supposed to be downstairs in the Gaspee room. but they only seated 125 people. We're at 188 RSP, so thank you all for coming. What a great turnout. Thank you. All right, I just want to quickly take you through some other information. Again, I'm not going to take you through every word of this, but we see most of the other business associations and chambers as allies. We're just different. We're designed to be different. It's like a yin-yang. We're designed to do the things that they don't do. You know, we're not going to have, like Mike said, high overhead. We're not going to be politically compromised. Our lobbyists aren't going to get told to shut up. That happened twice during the RhodeworksRI fiasco. They don't typically call out individual lawmakers. They do some lobbying. Well, we think you need to know how your lawmakers are voting. We're going to tell you, and I'm going to show you some examples of that. Some of them have PACs, but PACs are largely ineffective because they're small and the reporting requirements are strict. You give over $100, you're out there. Does anybody doubt there's recrimination in this state? Well, the reason we can only be half political is because when we do get political, except for our largest donors, you remain private. You support Gaspee Business Network or the Gaspee Project at any level under $1,000, and you don't stick your neck out. You remain private. That's state law, that's federal law, we're just following the law. So unlike donating to a campaign or a PAC, you can be politically involved, you can be involved in issues, and you can protect your privacy, if that's important to you. Very important distinction. And when we talked about lobbying as well. So imagine if you could go up there, we won't mention names, but imagine if you can go up there like other groups and advocate for a bill, and they know that you're going to be serious about that when November comes. I think they might listen a little more seriously. So we talked about raising public awareness. We kind of made the news 6-8 weeks ago when we did, I guess they've never seen these kinds of things in the state before. I don't know, it's just, we just let people know. We sent flyers around and let people know how certain senators and representatives voted. Some had good records, some didn't have good records. It was all over the media. They talked about it for days and days. They're still talking about it. The status quo claimed that we were funded by the Koch brothers. And how dare out-of-state interests influence Rhode Island politics? Well, what they don't understand is the power of you. They're not going to see it coming. 100% of the money the Gatsby Project has raised and the Gaspee Business Network has raised is from local individuals and local businesses. You have the power to shake it up. Just like Walter said, just like Gary said, we can make a difference. These are just voter education mailers. Wait till we do some campaign mailers when we can be a little more edgy. And we will. And that's, so that's another thing with this. Those are some examples. Recently in the news, Representative Macbeth sent us a quote. She's away on vacation and hoped to attend today, but you can see that she, and I'm sure the other senators and representatives here will tell you that if there's a unified and strong voice and you do go up there lobbying for pro-business reforms, we will be taken more seriously, and that's our goal. The policies we'll advocate for will be largely decided by you, the members. Once you become a GBN partner, we plan on doing frequent surveys. Now, we're not in legislative season now, but after the elections, be ready for a lot of surveys. And these are just some of the examples of the types of things that I think most business owners would agree on. We'll be working on statewide issues that help all businesses. We're going to avoid specific companies, specific industries. Gary talked about some corporate welfare to specific companies and specific industries. Not only is it an insult that they get it and we don't, but then they make us, our businesses, and our families pay for it. It's got to stop. So we believe in level playing field, No special preferential tax treatment. That will be the operating principles of our policy. Most of these, as you see, we must level the playing field when it comes to big labor. There's far too many advantages there, because many of you, I talked to some members in ABC today, right? The Association of Business Contractors who are non-union shops, open shops. They're at a huge competitive disadvantage because of state law. And the small businesses are going to thrive in this state. They have to have more opportunities to compete for some of these contracts. So, kind of wrapping it up a little bit to come full circle, we said earlier up here that we need political clout to advance an agenda. The way you get political clout is to be effective in campaigns. And this year we have a chance to pick some select races, make it known that the Gaspee Business Network is involved in those races, and when we win those races, I look forward to going up and Mike and whoever else we hire as our lobbyists to go up there and say, we are the Gaspee Business Network, and here's a policy we believe in. And I think we will have their ear at that point. So that is the whole strategy kind of come full circle. I'm going to call Mike back up. He's going to do a couple things here, so thank you. You know, we've kind of got the attention of the media, we've kind of got the attention of the small business community, we've got the attention of some representatives. Mike's going to share with you this very interesting email he got a couple of weeks ago, and then he's going to take you through the membership levels. And again, at any time, please go over to our volunteers and sign up, and then I'll come back and we'll wrap up and take your questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. So, you're really going to get an appreciation of this, being Rhode Island. So, you think we're not effective? All right, in our infancy, we've already got Rhode Island Commerce Corp contacting us. That's how bad we've crawled up their ass. All right? And want to sit down and see what we're all about. No, the answer to that is no. They'll figure out what we're about. Believe me. That's what we're about. Okay? I had to laugh, and I felt very vindicated when I got that email, and I think you'd understand why. So I'm going to leave it up for a minute so you get a chance to read it. It is kind of funny, you got to admit. With that being said, and I don't need it up on the screen, but with Gaspee, we have a couple of different types of memberships. We have our Patriot membership, and you get the same out of all of them. So, I mean, it's just a matter of what you feel like donating. The Patriot membership is $200. The Longbow Partnership is $500. The HANA Partnership is $995. With the HANA Partnership, I'd like to put people on the steering committee so you get a stronger input. I am actively seeking, believe it or not, women businesses. I need some women businesses on the steering committee so we get a female perspective of things. We're all a bunch of guys. I mean, come on, let's call it what it is. Women have sometimes, we don't think too clearly, all right? So with that being said, I really would relish the fact that someone would join, and all of you join, but I mean, specifically, I'd like to get a woman on the steering committee with us, and so would the rest of the guys, so we get a female perspective of how they perceive things as running a business in Rhode Island. With that being said, donations, as you know, are not tax deductible. We have to exemplify that. We have to, and we call it partnerships because we're all in this together. All right, and where it goes from here, hey. We got brochures down there, the table's open to registration. We got everything all set up for you guys to join. I have a vision on this, and I believe in it. And, God, a couple years from now, think of this, guys. We got 5,000 people, 5,000 businesses. Look how effective. And this is just the infancy stages, all right? Like I said, it's organic, it's growing. I believe in it. My heart and soul is in it. And with that being said, I've met a lot of great people. There's a lot of great people in this room. It's up to you people to help us take this state back. Take control of your own state. Take control of your businesses. Leave something for the next generation, please. With that being said, I'd like to introduce now to Ken Block. And Ken would like to come up and say a few words. And thanks, everybody.
So there's advantages to going last and there's disadvantages to going last. Most of what I was going to talk to you about, someone else already said very well. So as I was scribbling over here, I was rewriting and reorganizing my thoughts to what I really wanted to talk to you about tonight. And I want to start by just asking for every business owner in the audience just to raise your hand. I want to get a sense for how that's beautiful. Thank you for coming out tonight. Okay? How many small businesses in the group? How many less than 20 people? And how many over 20? Beautiful. All right. How many of you, and I want to hear you with your voices here, how many of you feel that the chambers of commerce, and I'm going across all the chambers at this point, represent your best interests?
No.
That's right. Nobody thinks that, right?
Who's a member?
Who's a member? I dropped out of the Providence Chamber of Commerce in 2008.
Took a long time, huh?
Look, let me go this way with you. How many? I know my plumber's in the audience tonight. Jimmy, I'm going to call you out here. How many business owners here are in the trades, and how many of those trades are being regulated by the Department of Labor and Training? Let me see hands for anyone who's in a regulated business by DLT. Okay, how's that treating you? Yeah, pretty miserable, right? How many restaurant owners are in the crowd tonight? And how pleasant is it to have to interact with all the different inspections you have? Lou, how many different inspections do you have to put up with every
How many
time?
permits do I have?
Yeah, I remember all the
13
permits.
of them.
I interact with restaurant owners who have to endure as many as 10 different inspections. In Bristol, they have to endure 3 different fire inspections, right? So we are an overregulated state. We are a state where it's not working well for us, and something has to be done about it. I don't know about you, but my strong sense is, and one of my great frustrations is, that the statehouse is not serving the needs of business. Nothing seems to get done in the statehouse unless there's a gun held to their collective head.
They're not serving anybody but themselves.
The Gaspee Business Network can be the gun that we need. Okay? It can be that. How many of you are angry? Yeah, you have every right to be angry trying to do business in a state that's as hard to do business in as Rhode Island is. Politics is largely about showing up. And the Gaspee Business Network gives you a way to show up and have your efforts amplified when you join up with a bunch of other business owners who are all going to pull their oars. See, I got the boat thing in there. All pull their oars in the same direction, right? This is about showing up. We need dollars, and we need time, and we need you to show up when we need you to show up. Because when a great group of people come together to advocate for something, you can get change even in a place like the State House, where change isn't easy to come by. We got the master lever because hundreds of people showed up and advocated for several years in a row. Mark my words, we will get the line item veto. My prediction is 2018. Okay? More than 100 people showed up for the line item veto. Some of you are in this room tonight, and I thank you for those who came. Mark my words, on the 2018 ballot, there will be a question for the line item veto. We're going to get that. And we get it because people showed up. You have to show up. You have to put effort in to get the change that you want to get. Gaspee is the way to get this change. There is no effective place for business owners to come together and get what we need right now. It doesn't exist. We're going to create it starting here tonight. Amen. Yeah. So, I could run through all the things that we've talked about already. I could talk about the tolls, I could talk about regulation, I could talk about all the other things, but I don't want to. I want to make this personal now. Okay? I got into politics in 2007, 2008. I got in because I was nauseated by the Providence Chamber of Commerce and how little they did to help my business, a software business, that was less than 20 people. I got into politics because I could move my businesses 10 miles up the road, and I could cross the line into Massachusetts, and I could save a boatload of tax. I got the boat in there again. A boatload of tax. Okay? That's what got me involved in politics in the first place. But as I got deeper into it, and as I began to see how badly damaged we were politically, I developed another fear and another concern. And that concern is, I have a son who's going into his freshman year in high school. I have a daughter going into 7th grade. And if we don't do something different in this state, they are going to leave. How many of you have children, grown children, who've left?
I have 5 of them who've left.
How many of you are worried about your children leaving once they graduate? Exactly. So this is no longer a business issue. This is a personal quality of life issue. Because if we can't have a place where we call home, where our kids can't be set up for success, that place is not a home. We have to turn this around. I'm dedicated to turning this place around. And you can help in a huge way. My business became a longboat supporter. If every person in this room became a longboat supporter, that would put about 70 to 80 grand in the bank to do things that have to get done. We have to do this. Businesses have to come together, and you have to help everybody be successful at turning this thing around, and it can happen. So I'm doing my job tonight. I'm trying to put the exclamation point on what we've talked about. I'm trying not to bore you to tears. And I know that Mike's intent at this point is to open things up to questions, and one of us will attempt to answer it as best as we can. So thank you for coming tonight. Please sign up. Please keep showing up, because that's how we're going to make a difference.
One last slide before we get to the questions. This is about you. Not like the chambers who represent them, or some of the big chambers. You have input into our agenda and our policies. Again, I have to reiterate, even though we're a nonprofit, your support is not tax deductible. I'm required to say that by law. You decide if your donation goes in our public education or our electioneering account. You're in control. You decide if you want your name listed. Unless you're over $1,000, you don't even have to worry about it. But at that point, you get to control. You work with us on that. And again, very few of you will ever appear on a campaign finance report. And you even get to control that based on the level of your donation and which account it goes into. So this is all about you. Our slogan, I think, to Ken's point, which you said beautifully, we are of business people, by business people, but we are for the people of Rhode Island. Because it is only through successful business owners like you that all of our state and all of our families and all of our children can prosper. So thank you.